Stream is live.
Is your audio all shipshape?
Yeah, we're good now.
Are we comments open on YouTube?
We are.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Jerry Hoyle just posted right this second.
Hello, Jerry. Did he post on Mukana without the H? I lost my Mukana. Where the hell did that go? Oh, I got to go dig it back up. There it is. Sorry, disappeared there for a while. You ever notice a weird thing? Sometimes if you're in a crowd of people and you start whistling, that other people will simultaneously, to the frame, whistle at the same time.
Every day.
What the hell is that?
I work with a guy that is constantly whistling. Then I start whistling the stuff he does that he's whistling without even realizing I'm doing it.
But starting at the same time. It's weird. I was whistling some Christmas song. And walking around in women's underwear in the malls and, whatever. And like three other people were doing the same song. And I'm like, wait, how's that possible? Is it a psychic thing? What the hell was going on here? See? See? See how you are?
That's what happens when you're sitting right out in front of Victoria's Secret.
What?
Walking around in women's underwear.
No, that's not the actual title of the song. Come on.
Oh, I thought it was. Sorry.
No. That's Bob Rivers. You know who Bob Rivers is? He lives in your neck of the woods. Or did. I don't know if he's still with us.
DC?
Yeah, he did all these great parody songs. And what was cool about it is that he had a huge knowledge of the music, so that when he did a Beatles knockoff, he had the exact same instruments played the exact same way, that when you hear his parody, it sounds like the Beatles playing.
All right, here's something interesting.
Are you just brushing mine off, or you have something
Yes.
better? Okay.
Sorry.
Notice that I pointed that out.
Yes. There are a lot of people in YouTube chat, but not in Mukana.
Really? I guess I'll have to turn my YouTube on.
Jerry Hoyle's there. Hershey's there. WCA Bar. Oh,
Hershey, baby. I got to turn it on so I can keep an eye on things over there.
All right, less than a minute.
Are we agnostic as it goes for chats and comments?
I don't know what that means.
Do we care?
In a vast wasteland of entertainment where radio has become obsolete, stands an embittered man teetering at the edge of sanity. With help from radio friends, he's about to embark on a global mission that would change the course of history as we know it. Broadcasting live from the secret studios on the banks of the Brandywine River in Delaware is Mitchell K.C. Hill. And up to the Great White North in Vancouver is Alexander Knight.
Hey, everybody, it's Mitch, KC Hill, and I lost my place to get my picture zoomed up. You know how you get it on your ATEM and you got to go scrolling way down to get. Hold on, bear with me here, Alex. I'm stuck I want to go back to the full screen. I
Can we
completely
restart
screwed
the
up.
show?
Can we just start it over again?
Rewind.
By then, I might find where the button. Here it is. I got it. Yeah, start the show over again. No, don't start the show over again. Here we go. This is what I was trying to do. Okay. Hey, welcome to The Last Angry DJ. I'm your host, Mitchell K.C. Hill, as it says there on the screen. I'm the guy that does the old stuff from the 70s and the 80s, the golden age of broadcasting, and the guy that talks about how it is today in the media, in the radio, and just younger stuff is the smiling Canadian himself, Mr. Alexander Knight. And here he is.
Hello, sir.
Oh, I get a salute.
Good evening. I'm giving you a salute up here from the Great
Does the
White
Canadian
North.
military salute this way, or they do it a la British?
No, I think that's the general salute. That's how they do it.
General salute,
think.
get it?
I think so.
General salute is
okay.
here.
Yeah.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Good to
Good to
see
be
you,
here,
pal.
Mitch. Good to be here, Mitch. Good to see you. Absolutely. For episode 86. Whoops. There we go. Got all sorts of problems this morning. This is episode 80. Not 80. I said 86. It's 96.
96.
We're almost at episode 100. We're going to be talking about that on today's show of The Last Angry DJ. Thanks for tuning in. This is the show that talks about luminaries in the world of broadcast, rising new talent. And unlike Iron Chef, it's not about whose industry reigns supreme. We discuss the ongoing challenges that we have in our respective industries, everything from podcast production to doing stuff on the air for radio. And it doesn't matter what part of the area of that industry you're in, whether you're a on-air talent, whether you're in sales and marketing, whether you're creating stuff for Instagram, YouTube, doesn't really matter because we all have similar experiences and challenges in the industry. And I am looking forward to the discussion we're going to have today. We've got a bunch of different topics here. But before we jump to that, let's jump over to our other panelist, Mark Giuliani, who knows a little something about radio. What's going on, Mark?
How are you, Alex? How are you, Mitch? Going to be a good show today. Lots of chat. We got a lot of people in here already chatting away, saying hello and such. And if you have questions, please go ahead and go to ask.thelastangrydj.com. That's ask.thelastangrydj.com and give us your questions so that we can do our best to answer them. Mitch, what do we got?
And if you're watching live, you can also go to YouTube and comment as we go along. And a bunch of folks there are gathering on the comment area. Mark, you can do some shout outs there to some of the folks that are there.
Well, shout out to Jerry and let's see who else is
Who's
in here.
Cababar or whatever that is.
I think it's Hershey. And so, hi guys, how are you? Thanks for commenting. And we're also over here at Mukana. Jerry's in Mukana now. He says, and now I'm over here. So,
He's everywhere.
He's all over.
And we really appreciate it. In fact, I kind of want to vote Jerry in for 2026 as a auxiliary person. We got to make room for him on this 3-up somewhere. Maybe down in the corner somewhere, a tiny little postage stamp where we put the QR code. Just a smiling Jerry.
No, it's got to be a 4-up.
Yeah,
Come
before
on.
too long, we're
Jerry,
going to
I'm
be like
sticking
this
up for
skinny.
you.
We're going to be all this skinny. We'll have to
Yeah,
lose
so
weight
everybody's
to be
got
able-
to go on a diet. Let's get Jerry.
Yeah,
up there,
exactly.
too.
Just what I want to do. I just don't do dieting anymore. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I abused DoorDash yesterday. I went to the Cheesecake Factory and went nuts. I got the miso salmon, which is awesome from there, and I got a smashed cheeseburger. Something about smashed burgers I really liked. It's good stuff. And, of course, there's always Arby's. Arby's, one of my favorite places to go. They've got the meats, as it were. So here we are. We're quickly approaching 100 shows. And I think, Alex, you said that officially we're in our 3rd year of broadcasting here. So how did that happen?
This is the start of the 3rd season of The Last Angry DJ, if you can believe it. 3 years. It feels like 20. I mean, I'm just absolutely exhausted. I don't know about you.
Is that at 100?
I'm kidding.
Technically? Yeah, I got it. I'm exhausted too. Is that at 100 that we officially go to 3, or are we just saying 26?
Yeah, you know what?
Year?
I'm just saying January, it started season 3. So this is actually something that if you are in the podcast world, one of the things that you can do as a podcast creator is you can actually flag your episodes as seasons. So I actually went back a couple months ago and I started cleaning up all the titles of our podcast because I found that we had the episode numbers and the name of the show in there, and it was just a bit superfluous, and Apple says you don't need to put that stuff in there. So we just have to tag our episodes properly. So I've tagged our podcast feed now has seasons and episode numbers, so everything's nice and organized. So this is officially season 3 of The Last Angry DJ. And hopefully, unlike other TV shows, we're still pretty good in the 3rd season.
Well, first of all, it's absolutely amazing. I'm gobsmacked, as they say in England. Gobsmacked. I think gob is your face or your mouth. I'm literally smacked. And 3 years this has been going on. 100 episodes. That's even scarier. So, we're finally... Now, when you do your searches, can you search by people? Let's say I want to find the episode that Alex Lindsay was on. Could I find that quickly, or do I have to look for his picture?
No, the search is pretty good. I mean, it depends on the podcast client that you're... let me cut back to me there. It depends on the podcast client that you're using, but most podcast clients have really, really good search. So you can just type in the name of the show and then some other keyword, whether that person's name is in the title or the description, it should find it. It's really not hard.
So on the 100th show, I'm going to vote right now that we need to bring our returning champion, Steven Stryker. Now, he's always reluctant to come on because he says, you use me too much. But I say for the 100th show,
Hardly.
he was there for the first. He needs to come in. So, Stephen, I know you're listening right now in your beautiful palatial estate down there in Southwest Florida. I think it's Southwest. No, he's in Tampa, so that puts it west. So I don't want to give any more information where he lives because, people might do a drive-by. But anyhow, we'd love to have him here for that particular show. And what do you guys think? Do we do a retrospective? Do we play sentimental music and flash pictures of past candidates? Do we play bloopers? What do we do? Today, by the way, our opening of today's show, I screwed that up royally. So that would make for one of the bloopers. Not being able to find the fade to button and fade from button. It was a mess.
Mm-hmm. No,
so what do we do? What are we going to do? Are we going to have fun with it? Or are we going to ignore it?
It sounds like Mark has an idea.
Mark
Well, I think we should put the idea out to the audience. Let the audience decide what we should do for our big centennial celebration.
So whatever they say goes. So if we decide we have to wear berets for the whole show, like Alex is wearing, then we all have to... Is that a beret or a fedora? I can't see because you got your head tilted up. That's a beret.
It is nowhere near being a fedora.
Okay. That's a toque. Would that be the way I would say
Wrong
if
again.
I were up north?
Wrong again.
Okay. What is a toque? Is that the one with the ears built into it when you pull it down?
No. No. A toque is what you guys refer to as a beanie. That's what it is.
A beanie. Okay. So whatever you tell us to do, we'll do it. So if you
go ahead into Makana and give us some suggestions. I'm not going to say whatever they tell us to do, we'll do.
No, I am.
We don't want to violate some FCC rules and regs.
There are no FCC rules. They're not, just even good taste. We might break a YouTube rule. We might break our own rules, but we're going to do whatever our audience wants us to do. So I'm looking over at the, boy, Hershey, you're like a posting fiend there on the, very good for you, pal. We're glad to have you. So either Mukana or on YouTube, either way, we'd love to have your questions. Plans for the 100th episode, Peaky Blinders. Do you know, Jerry, do you know what a Peaky Blinder is? Do you know, have you watched the show? Do you know what, and it's based on a real thing in England? It's that it's a guys wearing funky hats, but they would have a razor blade in the brim of the hat, and they would use that to slash somebody.
Ouch.
That's a Peaky Blinder. Yeah, it's kind of nasty when you stop and think about it. But there you go.
We do have a good suggestion here. Brett says,
What's that?
Brett says we should see who could eat the most Arby's roast beef sandwiches. Do you think we get Arby's to sponsor
I've already won that one. I am Arby's, man. Where's the beef? It's right here. It's all here just for you. So yeah, we could do that, and we'd love to get Arby's back in to bring some more coupons so we could give them away. We should do some trivia questions, things like that. Celebrate. So keep those suggestions coming, whether it's coupons or Peaky Blinders or welcome to Birmingham. What's Birmingham, England? Okay, I thought you meant Alabama. Okay, I get it. I watched like the first 2 seasons of Peaky Blinders, and it's very hard to follow. Have you ever noticed, Alex, that some shows you like that are done in England when they're I know they're speaking English, but I do not catch the drift of the conversation. It's kind of
you have to
too
watch.
much slang.
I agree. I've gotten better at it over the years. The more shows I watch, the more I kind of my ears get attuned to the dial. And I use a dictionary and I look up the slang, British slang dictionary, and I'm looking up words all the time to understand what they say. But it takes some practice, man. It's hard work.
Yeah, gobsmacked. There's one. Right. And I hear that's an English term. And there are a lot of others that we've kind of, like Shakespeare actually has written a bunch of words that are now part of our vernacular, So I don't have Shakespeare to quote. I'm not that sophisticated. Thanks, James Callahan, saying hello, everyone. And he's up for the Arby's, too. So I'm going to have to reach out to Arby's and say, we really need some coupons. Coupons, get it? Pardon me. Anyhow. Whatever you want to do, and guess what? You don't have to stop asking now what you want us to do. You can keep doing it up until we do the 100th show. So that's going to fall on what? Let's see. That's 3 shows away. 2 shows. 80. What are we? 80, 98 today. 98. So that's 2 shows away. So it's really close. Nobody wants to do the math here. That's the trouble.
Well, we're episode 96, so
4,
7, 8, 9. Yeah, 3 episodes away.
So it's a February thing. How do you pronounce February, Mark? Do you know how to say it?
Feb.
Fab? That's how you say it?
Feb, period.
It's
February.
February.
You got to get the. I think you got to get the R in there technically.
Yeah, you got to get the "ru" in there.
Do you have to roll
July?
your R?
How do you say July?
July.
It's not July. It's July. Like
Depends.
July. Like that.
It depends
That's
where
the way.
you're from.
No, that's how it's pronounced. I'm trying to explain to you. We're talking about
Alex, how do you say it?
isms.
There's a remote farm in Lincolnshire where Mrs. Buckley lives. Every July, peas grow there.
I can't believe that you're quoting Orson Welles' greatest blooper, where he absolutely freaks out on the producer. He's reading copy. This is Orson Welles reading copy.
I love that.
In a recording studio.
I love that.
And the producer
Drunk
is asking
Orson
him,
Welles.
well, we really need to, with an English accent, he's saying, we need to punch that up. And Orson really takes, here's the director and writer for Citizen Kane and other great, and he's having it out with a guy that's writing pea commercials. So anyhow, it's great. Look it up on YouTube. Orson Welles and what is it? The Mrs. What is it? Pea Farm.
Yeah, I forget
You were
the
just
name of the
reading
brand. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that was I was doing that from memory. I don't remember the rest.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm shocked and amazed that you were able to do that. Congratulations. So, various ideas, stunts, crazy things. Maybe that's when you guys start, sending us little tidbits of coffee. On how do they do that again? If they want to give us coffee or soda or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. People can do that by going to patreon.com/TheLastAngryDJ. That's patreon.com/TheLastAngryDJ. Click the $2 a month coffee supporter button there. Thank you.
And we're happy to report we're not filing any income taxes for the show because we didn't make a dime on the past year. So that's the good news. The bad news is we didn't make a dime. So either way, we got it. We got screwed, as the term goes. Okay, we'd love to have your input. Let's see. James has one. Mark,
James has come in. He's entered. He says hello to everyone. He loves the Arby's, +1 on the Arby's, and his grandmother is British. So I grew up learning very young. And we also got a question here. We've already got a question in.
Let's do the question.
Okay, from Walt Palmer in Lewis, Delaware. Tomorrow in Delaware, a Delaware state trooper will be laid to rest after being murdered on
TJ
duty.
Snook. Yep.
I plan to stream the service, but hesitant to air the service live on the radio. My concern is the periods of silence on the stream. Should I air it?
This is a police officer that was shot in the line of duty at the Delaware Motor Vehicle. And it's a very sad thing when that happens.
2 days before Christmas.
Nicknamed TJ Snook. I think Snook is his last name. That's the correct way.
Right.
I'd say that give him his due. I mean, he gave the ultimate sacrifice for something that was going. So, Walter, I think it would be a good move. I suspect that since Mark here is the owner of the radio station, you're making a suggestion to the owner. Let me suggest to the owner, run that thing because, first of all, he deserves it. And the other thing is people will love you for doing it, for laying him to rest and actually having it broadcast live. So if there's dead air, what the heck? I as a young child, I remember when JFK was shot. I remember watching the funeral march down Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington D.C. and I'll never forget that drum sound that played over and over and over again. So yeah, go ahead, Walt. I say yes, regardless of do it live. Maybe somebody could comment on what's going on in between. I don't know if you have an extra a person that can do some commentary. What's the route going to be? Do you know, Mark, where they're going to have the trooper route? Okay,
I don't.
That would be a good thing to find out. So yes, I vote for anybody else have a comment on that? Mark,
no, I haven't followed the story, so I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately,
no, it's a really sad story. Right before Christmas, somebody walked into the Department of Motor Vehicles and shot the officer point blank, and after he'd been shot, he still saved some other people's lives.
Yeah, he was rushing into the battle, as sometimes happens when you have that job. And anybody that speaks badly of police officers should learn this lesson very well. They put their lives on the line every day. So, our hearts go out to them, and may his memory be a blessing. And we'll hopefully be able to hear it streaming on WGMD. So next subject as we move on through things here is what jobs are now available for broadcasting. Mark, did I step on your toes? Were you going to start that, or was that for me?
No, that's for you. I think.
Okay. Well, I think you're the guy that should answer it. What jobs are now available for people that are hired? What are you hiring for in your radio station?
Salespeople. Lots of positions open at all stations, from what I can tell, for salespeople. I think what's interesting about the industry is as you have more of these larger companies owning more stations, traditional roles, and you can comment on this because you were in radio when a lot of these roles were so prevalent, but roles like program manager or director and such aren't at individual stations anymore. They're more corporate titles because those stations are utilizing the modern technologies and efficiencies to try, rightly or wrongly, to bring radio to multiple stations simultaneously. And so a lot of those positions that were available at each station have gone away at most of the larger stations. They're still around at some of the smaller stations, because they don't have the capacity they don't have the bandwidth that the bigger stations do.
Yeah, to put that in perspective, in the 70s when I got into radio, let me see if I can remember all the jobs, maybe from the top down. There would be a general manager who was in charge of the station. Next one would be the general sales manager. There might be a national sales manager that handled the national advertising and a local sales manager that handled the local sales. Any number of salespeople. On our station, we had like 5 that were selling time on an AM radio station. Over to engineering, there'd be a chief engineer, there would be an assistant engineer, and then there would be people that would be hired freelance to move equipment for remote broadcast and things like that. So there are at least 2 engineering positions. This is in a successful radio station back in the day. Then over to programming, there would be a program director, and then there would be a music director, and there might be an assistant program director somewhere in that grouping. But those are the two main jobs. And then you would have a bunch of jocks, and usually there would be a disc jockey doing 6 to 10. Usually the program director, so he can get that out of the way. Then a jock for 10 to 2, then another jock for 2 to 6, and then 6 to 10, which was my favorite air shift. I loved working nights, and I could do it while I was in school. And 10 to 2, or sometimes 10 to midnight. No, it would be 10 to 2 and then 2 to 6. That's how it went. Yeah. And then as far as other jobs, subcontractors, there would be a national program director for the company that might have owned your radio station. There might be a national general manager. There might be a national engineering, people, administrative jobs like that. But nowadays, how many people do you think, Mark, minimum it takes to run a radio station? Just take a guess.
I think it all depends on the format, right? News talk tends to have more people, I believe, than radio because you have to have news. You got to have the announcers live and local. So you got to fill out a schedule with announcers, and you've got traffic. Someone's got to handle all the contracts. You have to have the salespeople going out and selling the contracts. So you've got a sales department, a traffic department where they sit there and fulfill the request of the contracts, and then that goes over to automation. So there's still quite a bit in running a radio station.
How many people do you have in your station?
So right now we probably have 12.
12, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's more than most. And if you're a part of a big group, a lot of the national people handle the in-between jobs. So it might just be sales and talent. And sometimes the talent is sort of being drained down the AI drain as more and more people are voice tracking. There might be like 1 or 2 full-time radio people if it's a music station, just doing music. And again, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and more radio stations are getting into the digital market. So you have people helping out with social media, people helping out with websites and hosting. And there's a growing digital part of radio where people are coming in and doing geo-targeting for ads and putting the ads, addressing the ads to specific zip codes and all kinds of things that are.
So over to Alex.
That weren't there
Alex,
20 years ago.
Alex, you've asked this many a time. What do you major in college if you want to get into radio? And we meant there's only about 2 or 3 jobs we mentioned that would be, would you go to college, go to learn sales? That's kind of an on-the-job training kind of thing. But you might, if you want to be a digital salesperson, if you want to be a journalist, that's still a job for going to college. To be a disc jockey, not so much.
Yeah, I think that the path that a lot of people take now is they take the path of going to some kind of broadcasting school. It obviously is going to vary from city to city, and I don't know if every city has a great broadcasting school, but here in Vancouver, we certainly do. I mean, the most popular one would be BCIT, British Columbia Institute of Technology, and they have the most well-known, I think that's pretty much the one that people go to for learning that. And you learn a lot of different roles. I mean, you're not just learning how to be an on-air personality. You're getting taught how to do broadcast news and journalism. You do sales, you do marketing. They teach you how to build websites. It's really multifaceted. You need to learn a little bit of everything. And of course, at the end of that 2-year program, you can decide what you're going to do. And certainly a lot of people in the class that I was in ended up in all sorts of different areas. And surprisingly, many of them did not end up being on-air personalities. They went into sales. Many of them went into sales. Many of them went into marketing and social media stuff, video production, journalism. There seems to be not a lot of people that are coming out of school that are wanting to do, or at least maybe they thought that was what they wanted to do, and then it turned out that they didn't feel they had what it takes, or maybe they just felt it wasn't really what they thought it was going to be, and they ended up doing something else. You know what? They're all valid. It doesn't really matter. I think people need to find their own path, find out what they are passionate about and what makes them tick. And you know what? There's nothing that says 2 years down the road you can't pivot and do something else. You may find that learning on the job, you may actually find that there's opportunities that present themselves, and you know, maybe you want to take that opportunity, and it might lead to a totally different thing.
Well, that's lucky that you have that type of a technical introduction to broadcasting, because suck in as much as you can in as many different areas. And not much has changed in that area, because back in 1973, when I was graduating from high school, I had applied and gotten entry to Syracuse University, to the Annenberg School of Broadcasting there. And they're very, prestigious place in upstate New York. Very cold there, by the way. And I went up there with my dad, and I walked around, talked to people, and I came back and I sat my dad and my mom down, and I said, not going to go to college. And my mom was very upset, because she thought it would be a good experience for me to do that. My dad, on the other hand, was a little more understanding, because he did not go to college to be in retail. He did it. He just went and did the job. Plus, I had a job working at a local top 40 station, a very powerful radio station in terms of its influence around, right here in Wilmington, Delaware, WAMS, WAMS. And I thought that maybe I would learn more on the job than going to college or going to school to get that job. But that doesn't happen for everybody. Not everybody gets to jump into a job at an actual broadcasting radio station. Certainly back in the golden age of broadcasting, it was hard to break in that way. You usually started somewhere in the depths of the hierarchy at the radio station, mopping floors and opening mail and making deliveries and stuff like that. They called us gopher, because we'd go for this and go for that. So I sort of came up through the ranks, but I always wanted to be in radio, and even practicing in my bedroom before there was a chance that I get hired. When I was in my early teens, I was like, doing my radio thing, and I did the same thing in school. We had a carrier current radio station for a while before I got into it. So getting the experience, getting the opportunity. But the one thing that Alex brought up that's very important is try to learn as much as you can about everything that has to do with that job, whether it's sales, marketing, digital media, all of those things. That's something that I did that served me very well. I got into the technical area of it, much to the chagrin of most of the engineers. They really didn't like one of their DJs that would mess up their equipment, learning about the technical stuff that was going on. So I learned that, got my first class radio telephone license. I've built a number of studios. I specialize in doing audio design and build out. And I could build you a studio right now. I got one right here. I got a full-blown audio radio studio. So I learned all those things, and they've served me well over the years, up until now, where things are a little bit different. But the lesson to be learned is that you don't necessarily have to go to a special college. You don't have to go to Syracuse University necessarily to get a degree in radio and broadcasting. Particularly since it's a very challenging business right now. So I think the money is in sales.
Let me say this. I think one of the advantages of going to a broadcast school is that you will take courses. I'm assuming, I did not go to broadcasting school, but I would think that they would give you courses or offer courses in all the different aspects of radio. So you will get a taste of what it means to go out and be a marketing portion of the station and sell advertising. You'll get a little bit of knowledge about the traffic systems and things. Whereas if you go directly to work for a station and with no experience, and you start in as a gopher, as you said, you may get pigeonholed right away into doing production or something and not get a full understanding or a holistic approach of what goes on in the entire industry.
Well, it's very interesting what you're saying. However, I can tell you that job positions in the radio business have always been very fluid. If you stay at a radio station for 1 or 2 years, that's probably the average that the talent gets to stay there. They're off to another market, probably a bigger market somewhere, after they've learned what they can where they are. So you sort of make incremental steps up in these job positions as you move from station to station. And invariably, even if you are the guy washing the floors and the bathrooms and doing all the scut work that's there, eventually you're going to get a chance to do something like, in my case, run the tapes on Sunday morning. Hey, let's teach Mitch. He can do that. And I already knew how to do all that because I practiced it in my head all the time and time again. So the idea is probably familiar to a lot of people that learn skills today, whether you're a plumber or an electrician or you do some kind of skilled labor. It's a specialized job, but you're apprenticing under somebody else that's teaching you the ropes. And when you do that, you get a chance to shine as you pursue that position. But you can also get exposure to it to the extent that you would say, boy, I hate this job. I don't really want to do this. I'm going to work over at McDonald's and flip burgers for more money, or do something else, or I'm going to work in radio. A lot of it has to do with luck. Just have to be in the right place at the right time. But we got some questions coming in, so why don't we jump out and ask those, Mark? What do we got coming in?
Okay. Brett from Appleton, Wisconsin. How much creative freedom did you actually have back in the day to curate your own playlist? Could you really just spin whatever you thought your audience would dig?
It's a good one.
Absolutely not. No radio station in its right mind, particularly a popular one, would allow the jock to make decisions like that. You can make small decisions.
I'm sure you tried, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't
Sneak
try because I knew well enough when I got the job that I better follow that clock on the wall. And also we had a filing system, which were just index cards, and we just went through index cards to rotate the music. It's a science at a radio station as to what song should play and in what order. I could go into great detail, but I'd have to spend an entire show. Those index cards and 45s on a peg have been replaced by computerized, rating systems. RCS is one of the big, called Selector. There are other Power Gold and a number of other programs that their job is basically to say, here's your playlist. Here are the power songs, the ones that should play the most. Here's the I can't think of the word. It's gone out of my head. Here's the oldies, and you play them in this particular order, and it gives you the proper mix that makes your station. You identify, but that's handled by somebody that's done a lot of research to determine how do they best serve their audience in their particular market, and they get rated on their ability to do that. So, Brett, to answer your question in detail, no way that a DJ is going to be allowed to make his own decisions about what song gets played and how. That you would think it might be kind of cool to allow that to happen, and it was done back in the early days of radio, back in the 60s, maybe even the 50s, but it also led to payola and DJs playing favorites to certain songs that they were getting paid to play. And there were, some people that abused that privilege, and they got into trouble accordingly. But not in the last 50 years has a radio station allowed their jocks to just play whatever they wanted to. Unless it's a community radio station, a low-power FM, LP-FM. College stations were generally pretty popular for allowing their people to... Alex, when you went to your first radio school, did they teach you about formatting, or did they just say, hey, have at it, play what you want?
No, there were very specific things that you had to do, right down to the specialized software that you had to use, and I forget the name. I'm just blanking on it, but
Selector, RCS.
Yeah, they showed you how to put the tunes in there, and
Music
also how
Master.
to trim the top and tail of stuff, and there was very specific guidelines, just like you said. Everything's accurate that you said, Mitch. You don't really get a choice. And we, of course, students cycle through all the different roles. You play all those different roles. And when you get to play the music director, you do have a say on what stuff is going to go in there. But you do, again, it's up to one specific person to really curate that stuff. One of the things that we did, which is kind of cool, because there was a campus radio station with a very small reach. I think it was like 10 kilometers or something like that. It wasn't huge, but we always got new music every single day being emailed to the radio station. Just local artists would say, hey, check out my song. I just put out this new EP. I just put out this new album. I put out this new single. And so you'd find all this new music, for better or worse, and you would get a say as to what would go on there. So it's pretty interesting. And, it's as someone who's really set in their ways as an older guy, going in there, I'm like, I don't know who any of these people. I'm looking at the playlist. I'm like, I don't know anything on here, other than maybe like Imagine Dragons, which is already a pretty successful band. I don't really know anything that's on here, so I felt really kind of dumb. I felt really, really dumb looking at that playlist. But everybody's got to go through those different roles, and you gain a lot of experience, and you got to learn the rules and how that stuff operates.
The way it worked was, at least back in the day, and a little bit today, but not so much, back when there was a real relationship between the radio station and the music record companies, is that Mondays and Tuesdays, generally Mondays, were the day that the record reps would come in. It was just like having a salesman coming in selling you widgets. They would come in with a stack of records from their record company. It might be RCA or Columbia or Warner Brothers or Casablanca Records. I mean, there's an endless variety of records, and they would always come in with a big stack. And there was only about room for maybe 30 to 20 current songs to be played, and maybe we would add a total of 2, maybe 3 songs per week. So each record guy, and there might have been 8 or 9 record companies, would come in with a stack of records. And I would look at him and say, "You're kidding me." And he'd say, "Yeah, every one of these things is a solid hit." Matty Humdinger Singer would come in and he'd spit on me, like not on purpose. He was just so excited, and he would like, "This is the Stone hit. If it isn't, I'll kiss your ass in front of the general manager." Just like all these characters. And what I usually did with the more savvy music guys, like from RCA or Arista or whatever, would come in, and they come in with a stack of records, and I'd say, "Okay, what are your push records this week?" And they'd get in their stack and they'd pull out maybe that many. So okay, they move all the big stack, and now I got this small stack, and then I go, "Okay, which one of those has a chance of being a hit?" And they reach in and they pull one record out, and they'd play it, and they'd be like Bo Donaldson and Billy Don't Be a Hero, and I'd listen to it and say, not in my lifetime or whatever, but we'll get back to you. We wouldn't make the decision right on the spot. That would never happen. So at the end of the day, you would have maybe 5 records tops that got your attention out of all the records that were brought in. And out of that 5, you'd have to sit down with the program director as the music director. You generally didn't make the decision on your own. You made recommendations, but then you would say to the powers to be, the program director, in my case it was Jay Cook, I'd say, "Jay, I think out of the 5 that I've got here, this one's got a real good shot. Let's add it. Plus, we owe them a favor. We can add it for a while at nights and list it on our P1 listing with radio and records, and do something like that." But you would never you were not in the business of discovering new talent. That's ultimately what it came down to. Our job was to play popular music that was popular probably elsewhere first. Very rarely did a local band or a regional hit happen, within your particular aegis as the music director. I might have broken 2 or 3 records in my entire radio career at WFIL I was the first to play them. And if you're the first to play it and it breaks nationally and sells over 1 million copies, then you get a gold record. Ooh. So, I have a few gold records for records that I played like that. But this whole process of narrowing this huge stack of music down to this tiny little, possibility, it was tough. Mark?
So Harshid has a question. Harshid Trivedi from Daytona Beach, Florida. Can you share your thoughts on radio stations that are syndicated and utilize YouTube?
I'm not sure what the context of that question is. If they use YouTube in what sense? Like broadcast the morning show?
Well, let's see if he comes in with a comment on that. But let's just say they syndicate their radio out over to a stream that's not part of their own app, so going to YouTube, there becomes a huge problem with licensing.
Well, yeah, that's one problem I can see right there is that, it's not fair play, folks. You might think it is, but it's not. But if you're, let's start with syndication. We'll break it down that way. Radio stations will syndicate a program, and let's say they have a very popular morning show happening in their market, and they want to syndicate it because they want to duplicate that success across multiple radio stations, either in the region or maybe nationally. That was done very often where, it could be Ben and Jerry in the morning, or whatever, or Scott Shannon or whomever. And they would syndicate that via satellite or via IP, and multiple radio stations would run the same program. Howard Stern was famous for doing that. He had up to 60 stations, I think, that he syndicated, but it was all within the same group. And I think at the time it was Infinity Broadcasting took his morning show and ran it across all their stations coast to coast. So syndication, yeah, there's economies of scale. And if you got a winning radio station in one market, chances are it will work in other markets. And it's that kind of personality is missing from radio today. There are some syndicated. Preston and Steve, I think, is still active in Philadelphia and in a few other markets. Started in Philly, was very popular, and they started syndicating. I don't think radio really plays into YouTube as an outlet for what they're doing. They might utilize it for social media and for communicating, aspects of the show, but I don't think that they're in the business of syndicating or duplicating their terrestrial broadcast on YouTube. They would just do it over an app that would syndicate over the airwaves via IP. Mark, you have
it starts to undermine. Yeah, it starts to undermine your whole advertising game. So if you're going to have advertising on the radio to help pay for the station and all the employees, how do you then all of a sudden make money by syndicating out to YouTube? It becomes a really hard thing to justify that why would you expect people to turn to your station and listen to it if they go to YouTube and listen to it?
I don't think they're doing it on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
I don't think it's happening. But they might do it on their app so you get it outside their area.
Right. And for whatever reason, the apps, if your radio station has an app and streams to the app, that licensing is covered within the licensing you purchased to be on air. So we have some comments coming in. Steven Stryker says real gold. So I'm not sure. I think he's talking about a format. And he says that current music is terrible. I'm paraphrasing. Look at the Song of the Year Grammy nominations. So maybe we can pick that up here in a little bit.
I'll have to look into it. I don't know. I think if you're talking about scheduling software, I think it's called Power Gold. I don't know if we're talking about the same thing, but just in case you are.
I think he's just talking about what radio stations would stream to YouTube, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure he will chat in here in a moment. But listen, if you have questions, please go to ask.thelastangrydj.com. Put some questions in here. There has to be a reason for me to speak, so, I need some questions to read.
And it's neat to have questions not only about how radios do it today, but what were you doing back when you were on the air, Mitch? Like, what was the typical day like, and how did you decide what records got played on your station? I mean, I like telling that story, and I think that gives you a little insight into the dynamics of how things worked back in the golden age of radio. But today, it's a whole lot different. I mean, social media is really determining what songs are popular and how they get played. Alex said you have an insight into how social media decides what songs are, why is Taylor Swift so big? Because she gets played on a lot of radio stations, because she tours a lot, because, people think she's great or she is great. How do those things work?
Well, there's a combination of a lot of that. I think with someone at her level currently, obviously it's, it's a moving train, and that moving train's not going to be stopping anytime soon. So you already have the momentum of her career because she's been doing it for a long time. She's amassed, obviously, a very, very large frothing at the mouth audience, I don't think radio has anything to do with it. I mean, maybe at the beginning, at the very, very beginning, it did, but now it's just built-in fan base. And if you're not into her, maybe your friends are listening to her, and so that's where curated playlists, sharing playlists with friends on Spotify, the algorithm has a big part of that. I think Spotify is a huge part of why certain artists get pushed up to the top. Apple Music, not so much, just because, and look, I know Apple Music is a big service. The problem is Apple Music does not have the same algorithm that Spotify has. It is not as good. And that whole weird sharing mechanism thing that Apple Music has where you can follow other people, it is, by the way, I tried it a couple of weeks ago with a friend. I was trying to figure out how do I follow people that I know and how do they follow it. That interface is so bad and is so clunky and so broken. I love the fidelity and the audio quality of lossless audio playback on Apple Music. It definitely has that as an advantage. Audio quality is an advantage, but the discovery aspect of it, nowhere near as good as Spotify. Now, I'm not going to use Spotify. I still don't like it, but a lot of people prefer it.
How do you decide which one to use? Because I get pummeled all the time from YouTube saying, hey, you should get YouTube Music, or Amazon said you're not taking advantage of your Amazon Music, or the same with Apple. You're not getting your Apple Music. You really should sign up with us. Frankly, I just happen to have 90% of the music that I used to play on the radio in my server behind me, and I don't need any of those things. I don't want to pay for any service, and I don't need to share it. I don't think anybody really cares about how I would curate a playlist. If I was a big-time actor, or if I was Mr. Beast or whoever, maybe you'd want to know what Mr. Beast likes to listen to and how he would curate a playlist. It's a whole different ballgame. But as you said, Alex, it no longer is what's played on the radio. Used to be what got played on your local top 40 radio station that would expose you to new music. And it was a very, how do I say this? It was a very incestuous relationship that the radio stations had, because if it happened somewhere on the West Coast at a big station like KFRC or KHJ, and then it got played on WLS in Chicago, and then it got played on WABC or WFIL in Philadelphia, that song would then get picked up by everybody in between. It just happened like that every week. And not a lot of individual decisions were being made about whether a song was worthy of being number one. Is it just supposedly moved up the charts, mainly because of the music director sitting there and say, let me see, I'm going to move that one up to number one because I feel like it. Some people actually did their homework and would give certain ratings, but it's like a weird chicken and the egg, because how do you determine the proper balance and listenership associated with a particular song that's breaking as a hit or number one as a bullet, as they say in Billboard, based on sales? Well, the way the sales worked is that people would call the local record shops up and say, what's selling? What's selling big? And they could give you some, like, not very granular, but they could give you some answers as, we're getting a lot of action on Hall & Oates or whatever. And then you would think that, when the time came to write your chart up and sit and share it with the record papers, and so you might bump the ratings up, and just because a guy that was in a good position at a major radio station had a lot of influence, that's how it worked. And it's a somewhat flawed methodology. I'll admit it. I was part of it. But it was the only system we had. So, we did it. We did the best we can. And it seemed to work with people listening to the radio, because Top 40 was a very popular format back in the day. But today, you don't go to your local radio station to find out what new music's being played, unless there may be a program locally. They play a show called Hometown Heroes, where they play local bands and things like that. That's kind of cool. But personally, I'm not into the local bands. I'm into the hits, the ones I played when radio was young, when the air was clean and sex was dirty. That was radio for me. So very interesting dynamics associated with that. Thanks for the questions surrounding that.
Before we move on to the next subject, we have a comment here from Walt Palmer that goes back to something Alex was talking about a little earlier. And full disclosure, Walt is the engineer and programming director for the Talk of Delmarva, which has been in my family since 1980. Walt says, I look for people with diverse life experiences to become on-air talk radio host. So a little diversity, a little bit of balanced background, because in talk radio, you're going to get questions about a lot of different things, and it helps to have the wider background.
That is a unique point of view because, first of all, it's unusual to have a chief engineer and a chief program director all wrapped up in one. But I've met Walt, and he's good at that. He seems to have the ability to embrace both of those jobs. He wears a lot of hats, like Mark is switching his up. He didn't catch him. You have to be fast with Mark. He just put a hat on.
Fix my hair now.
Oh yeah, right. So to Walt's point. Yeah, I think so. I mean, for me, for example, a typical DJ jocking up record intros and pre-announcing them and post-announcing them and hitting the post and the vocals and so on and so forth, you might talk 10, 15 seconds, for each song that gets played, and that's it. And if you were clever and you could work your little bits in there and be edgy and have a lot of fun, that's what radio was all about. When I got asked to do the morning show at the local station, I was like, I was pretty good. I had a big career in radio, but now I'm being asked to do a morning show where I'm going to do a lot more talking and a lot more of the things that Walt's referring to that I wasn't sure I'd pull that off. It's the same thing with doing this podcast. I'm talking more than 10 seconds here. Do I have enough to be able to hold it together to have conversations with people and have it entertaining and be fun? And luckily I did. So I did that for about 3 years at the local radio station, and then I left it, and the rest is history. But I think it's a very good point that Walt made, and certainly you do have to know a little bit about everything. And if you don't know a little bit about everything, at least have an opinion about everything so that you can stir things up a little bit. Because not everything that's said on a talk show with a personality is the God's awful truth. It could be very incendiary. It could be controversial. Probably better than it is. Like, Mark, do you field complaints from listeners when your talent go off the rails and make big pundit type comments about something that they disagree with? Do they comment to you as the general manager?
No comment.
Oh,
yes,
you
we get
weasel.
We get comments all the time, and
okay, so you do field them,
yeah.
and you're sympathetic to their input, but you recognize that people have opinions,
right.
So they could be positive and
we're a news
negative.
talk. It's very opinionated. So yes, we get a lot of opinions.
And not to get into political discussion.
Yeah.
Seems to me that the more you are to the right, the more relevant your talk content is. Seems like that gets the most lightning strikes, as it were. So that's usually a very popular format. I mean, did Rush Limbaugh prove that to be a fact? He came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he became quite a talk show host. Did you run Rush when he was available?
Yes, we were the first FM station in the country to carry Rush Limbaugh. It took 6 months of negotiating.
Did Rush say, why FM? I'm an AM guy?
Exactly. Well, he said, FM's music, AM's talk. Why would I go on FM? So.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how radio people are so stuck in their ditches the way things are done. It's like, I think most radio people today, I'm not letting any, cat out of the house or whatever. What is the term? Cat out of the bag. When I say this, is that radio people are still stuck in the 80s. Doing the same thing that they did back then when it was really super popular. They got to get with it. They got to grow up and learn. And my hat's off to you, which I'm not wearing one, to Mark for trying integration of digital with Mukana and Dial. And Alex, you probably have a comment on what do you think radio has to do to be more relevant in today's world instead of resting on their laurels from the 80s of all things. That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Uh-huh.
I can say
sorry.
some things, but I don't think I'm qualified. Anything I say is probably going to sound really, really brutal, and
Have at it, buddy.
it is.
I mean,
I just don't think. I think AM talk is very valuable. I think it is. It will continue to be valuable. I don't think FM radio, in its current state, listening to playing music with very little talk in between. It's just boring. I don't think you can really make a lot of money at it. At least not. I mean, people are still making money now, but when you really look at what is happening in the industry in this country, in Canada and the United States, and I'm sure other parts of the world, there is so much consolidation, and these many radio stations are owned by very large conglomerates, and they have cut back a lot in the workforce. They've shut down radio stations. They've laid off a lot of staff. That continues to happen. You look at what Chorus Entertainment, which is a division of Bell Media, is the biggest in this country. I mean, they're a very, very big company, and they've been making a lot of changes. And I just don't think 20 years from now, are people going to still turn? Is FM going to be a thing? Are people going to be flipping on the radio? I don't think it's going to last. I don't think it's going to last. I think talk radio has way more value because it's based on current events, and it's based on personalities more, and I'm tuning into people to get their take on something, which is why podcasts are successful. I'm tuning into personalities to get their take on a particular subject that is relevant and current. And there's just something about listening to music on the radio that is just so robotic and uninteresting now.
You bring
like
up
that
a
time
really
is
good
gone.
point. You bring up a really good point, and that is most of talk radio, or talk radio for the most part, is primarily it's live. And so there's a conversation going on, especially when they take calls or they use the more modern tools that have chat in them, like Mukana and Dial. That really has been a huge drastic change, and you're seeing a number of traditional AM powerhouses going to the FM frequency. 10 years ago, probably, WTOP, the largest station in the States by revenue, was a 50,000 watt AM station, is now an FM station, and they're using their AM for something completely different, federal radio. So
you guys are spot on. I mean, as an old radio guy, I believe that what you're saying is true. Think about it for a minute. Radio stations programmed the music and their programming format to reach as many people as they could, because it was a one-to-many relationship for their territory, their terrestrial broadcasting area. Nowadays, it's kind of the opposite, because now you're competing with Spotify and Apple and all these other services that actually generate a playlist and a format specifically using algorithms that you would want to listen to. So a radio station that was trying to reach a lowest common denominator to reach as many people, sometimes they'd play the right song, sometimes they'd play the wrong song, but they never got too far away from what was right. We called it a 3-song rule back in the day. Now you can be very specific. So radio is not a music playing machine that uses algorithms to serve you curated playlist of the music that you want to hear. You just happen to be going along for the ride with everybody else that's in that particular area. So I agree with you guys. I think it's a outdated methodology.
Another big part of it, Mitch, sorry, but another big part of it is that back in the day, you were limited to the stick. So you could only reach, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have your radio station apps, you didn't have the ability to stream indefinitely around the world, which changes how you play that music now. Plus you have the whole, the whole thing with all the different apps you're competing against that people build their music list on.
Yeah, and there has to be something wrong when there are 5 major conglomerations that own radio stations, and at least 3 of them are on the brink of or in bankruptcy. That should tell you something about the state of the business as it exists. I think you guys are talking points where we're switching to FM because AM is not the reachable frequency. FM sounds better and it's no static at all or whatever. It's a better place to put all the sound. And the weird thing about the transition to FM is it feels exactly the way it does back when I was on AM, and AM was big, and FM was sort of like the poor cousin, and everybody said, "Oh no, AM is king," and this and that. I feel the same exact, pushback about how good FM is. So, let's get it to FM, and then let's move it to IP because it's going to be AM, FM, and IP, and then eventually no more AM because it's just going to become totally irrelevant. Nobody's going to want to listen to them for whatever. Maybe it'll just be roadside traffic information. So it's a very, very deep subject, and thank you for putting up with us talking about it. Radio people have very mixed feelings about admitting that music on radio, music on FM is still relevant. And I think Alex was the first guy I heard that had the guts to say it. So it wasn't a brash comment, Alex. I think it was spot on. And I think we just sort of have to get over it and realize that there are other things we can be doing with a geographic terrestrial broadcast that reaches everybody instead of trying to narrow it down with a format that can't compete with algorithms on the internet. It just isn't going to happen. So there we go. Any wrap-up questions do we have on the state of radio, comments? Questions? I think
we're ready to move on to our next topic.
Let's move on. Now, here's a great topic that we're going to hand it over to Alex because he's doing something cool. And just for the record, I've already done what Alex is doing, except for the Atmos part. So, Alex, explain what it is that you're doing, what you've purchased. You just burned some money in your credit card.
So I have a new TV, which is going to be installed later today. I bought a 65-inch LG G5 OLED screen. It's their flagship model, apparently. I did a little bit of research on it. So I've been wanting a new TV for a while, and I'm excited about that too, but I think I'm even more excited about me building an Atmos system. So I had some extra speakers laying around. I've got a new surround sound processor, and I am playing around with that right now. I have so I'm building, just to start, a minimal viable Atmos system, which is a 512 system. So if you think about a typical 5.1 system, you've got your front left, front right, and center channel, and then your 0.1 is your subwoofer, and then you have your left rear, right rear. So the 0.2 would be adding two down-firing, what they call height speakers. So I've got those two that I got to bolt to the ceiling, and I've got all the wiring for that. My center channel hasn't arrived yet. It's going to arrive probably at the end of next week, so I got a little bit of work to do. So that's what I'm going to be working on in the next week or two. So I'm really excited. I've already tested a little bit, even though I don't have all the speakers wired. It's been a while since I've had a multi-channel setup here, and it's pretty cool. I love movies, so for me, it's worth it to me. I mean, the upgrade from the 51 to the 65, having those deep blacks and the OLED, I'm super excited. So I will post photos as the build out happens. Who knows? I may jump into after hours and switch a camera on. You never know. I'll have a live stream of my build out, my studio build out here for my home theater. So I just wanted to share a little.
I'm still stuck in the world of 5.1 Dolby, and I think it's good. I know it's pretty good when I'm watching, like a Marvel movie or some ILM production, and my new dog is sitting, patiently in my lap or next to me, and a plane flies over, and my dog goes like this. He's like tracking it with his little ears across the room to the rear speakers. I know that's pretty good. He does it better than I do, and he hears things that I don't hear, so it's pretty cool. But I'm just a 5.1 guy. And I live in a condo, so I really can't go heavy on the subwoofer on 0.1. But I do like OLED. OLED was the first technology to come out since plasma that had much deeper blacks. So why would that be important? is because most TVs prior to that, certainly LCD TVs and maybe early LED TVs, they would broadcast black, but it was really not black. It was really kind of gray, and you really never got that crisp black. OLEDs were the first that did that, and you get black. You get deep black, and when you put deep black next to a color, that color even pops even more. So I have a Sony 65-inch. I forget the OL 90 or something like that. 65-inch OLED. And to put it in perspective, I bought it like 4 or 5 years ago, and I paid $4,000 for it. Alex, how much did you pay for your LG 65-inch? I know
got
it
a
wasn't
really good
4,000.
No, I got a really good price on it. In fact, it was on sale, and I ended up ordering it online from a local company called Visions Electronics, Canadian company. But there was a bit of an issue with the order when I ordered it, and I thought it was available for in-store pickup. They kind of ghosted me. 5 days went by, and then finally I get an email saying, hey, you know that TV you ordered? It turns out we actually don't have it here at the store. So do you want us to still ship you one, or do you want to cancel the order? So I canceled it. I just went into the store, and it turned out they have the exact one that I wanted, but they only had an open box demo model. So he gave me a really good deal. I think it was like $3,200 with tax originally for a new one. He gave me the open box one for $24.99, and then
you did all right.
Yeah, so he gave me a really good price on it, and then he offered the extended warranty, which I took because he actually gave me a discount on the warranty. Turns out that LG's 5-year warranty does not cover parts, which is kind of crappy. So I took their extended warranty because they cover parts. Plus, they will actually send somebody to your house to pick up the defective TV. They will service it and then return that TV to you, which is a big deal because my car cannot fit a 65-inch TV. So
no, and the big mistake most people make with a TV when they're taking it home is they lay it flat in the back of their car. Never, ever, ever lay a flat panel flat.
I had to do that. So,
but you can't do that; it will break. You know, I had an expensive Mark. I'll get to you in a second. Expensive TV before I had a super expensive plasma. Who made it? It was a Pioneer plasma. It was like $5,000, and it came in, and the guy hung it on the wall. You know, had this crude in there, and all of a sudden it just went like that, crack at it, and that's done. Take it out. And they hauled it back out, went and got another one and brought it in and hooked it up, and it worked great for years. The plasma, I never had LED or LCD. It was always plasma, and then I made the move to OLED. And the OLED, the only tricky part about a OLED or OLED is if you have a lot of ambient light in the room where you've got it set up, it doesn't put out as many nits as an LED display will be. Now, some of the more recent OLEDs are better than the older one like I have, but it's fine for me. I mean, I have this scrim that comes down on my window, and I have it all set up, and it works fine. And I love the blacks. It looks great. Interesting question to you, Alex. First of all, did you look into the new micro LED screens that are out there? They're making noises like they might be better.
Don't want to bother with it. OLED's the way to go as far as I'm concerned, and everything that I read on those, I researched these TVs quite a bit based on a few sources that I tend to trust, and I'm sticking with OLED. I wanted something that supported all the current standards: HDR10 and 10 plus, Dolby Vision, and the panel is top notch. So I think I made the right choice going with this.
Yeah, the good thing about the panels. There's only like 4 companies in the world that make the panels.
LG's one of them.
Sony.
LG and Samsung are the two
LG
big ones.
is one of the ones in Korea, I believe they are. It's like you buy Sony and you think, well, mine's a Sony. It was made in Japan. No, it wasn't. It might have been assembled in Japan.
Does Sony not make their own screens?
I think it depends on the type of screen it is. I think they're making the new micro LEDs, the supposedly super bright, but they don't have the same blacks. as the OLEDs do. And the cinema friends that I have all scream about the OLEDs to look the best. So I'll go with them. And I don't have the money to buy a big expensive screen. And any of my friends that come to me and say, "Hey, I was at Costco and I got a Vizio for $65." I'm like, "Does it look good to you?" And they say, "Oh, yeah, it looks great." I said, "Fine, I'm happy for you." I'm not going to sit there and try to rain on their parade and tell them, "Well, did you look for, pixel ghosting, and does it make blacks properly, and is it are the proper from side to side or corner to corner?" I mean, all the things that I'm sure you looked up when you were doing your research on an OLED TV. I'm happy for you. I think it's a good choice, and I know you're a cinema nut, and you're going to appreciate it because the way they shoot a lot of movies nowadays, it's for the LUTs that these TVs can make. And don't believe the crap you see when you go into a audio video store and judge it based on it's got blazingly bright screens, because they have a setting when they're demoing TVs in stores. I guess you get this, Alex, where it's just super, super bright. And the people that don't know any better just judge the TV based on, well, that one's brighter than that one, so that's the one I'm going to buy. But it has no subtleties. It doesn't have decent blacks. There's all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, I mean, they don't set up this stuff in the store to be color accurate and calibrated and all that. So yeah, the demo models are not the way to judge the TV for sure.
Yeah, and don't use demo mode on your when you set your and maybe cinema. I'm not a big fan of the cinema setting. I kind of messed with it myself, with a lot of different source material. What do you use for your reference as far as movies go?
Well, there's a bunch of discs that I use that are some recent Blu-ray 4K discs that I consider reference quality. I mean, Sinners on 4K. I think it's 100 gig dual layer Blu-ray. I mean, super high bit rates. I look at this stuff on the disc, and some scenes are getting 70, 80, almost doing all the way up to 100 megabits per second. So these things are compressed really, really well, and they have a lot of data, so these things look really, really nicely. But yeah, if you get a TV, you want it on calibrated mode. You want what they call filmmaker mode turned on, so it turns off all that crappy fake processing that adds motion blur and all that junk, really, that just makes the picture look awful. And that's not at all how the director and the director of cinematography wanted you to see that movie. So you want to turn all that processing off. Turn off sharpening, anything artificial like that.
One of the beefs I have with my Sony is, and they sell it as a feature, and I'm not sure it's a feature, is that they have this processor that takes each little section of the TV and recalculates a number of different parameters and enhances the scene accordingly. And I think that that's not necessarily, well, probably not at all what the filmmaker had in mind, that they would have Sony interpret my LUTs and do its own version. So it's not I don't consider it to be, a feature that I like. I consider it to be not what I want. So congratulations on that. Good luck with your OLED. Good luck with your Atmos. What are you using for an amplifier?
I am using it's an older one I got off a friend of mine. I'm going to buy it off of him, but I'm just testing it right now. It's a pretty high-end AVR. It's a Denon X4400H. I think he paid like $4,000 for that thing. So it does all the way up to Atmos 11 point whatever.
I got news for you. The older Denons are better than the new ones coming out, because I think they might have had a change of hands, and like most things, I
don't know. I mean, these high-end ones are they're still made in Japan, so yeah, it's heavy. It is a very heavy amp.
I have a Pioneer Elite, and the problem with amps nowadays, a lot of them have the video switcher in them too, and they don't all abide by the new HDMI category. Was it 2.x HDMI switching? So if you're
buying a new one today, you want to get something that supports HDMI 2.1 spec, yep. But that is so that you can. The thing is that HDMI 2.1 doesn't really matter all that much unless you're going to look at content that's at 4K 120. right? So there's not that much stuff out there right now that supports 120 frame rates per second. Also, your TV has to have an HDMI 2.1 compliant port on it in order to do so. You have to have all these pieces in your signal chain have to be compatible for it. But I can't really get into the weeds of that right now. That's a whole nother show.
Well, let me get into. Mark, do you have something you wanted to say?
No. I was just going to say that's a great segue into the first beef of the week.
That's exactly right. And now it's time to talk about Mitch's beef of the week. Oh, where's the words? Oh, there it is.
They're right there.
Beef of the week. Wipes off now. Carefully. Wipe off. Isn't that it? Pays attention to me. Okay. Great segue into the first subject. Thank you, Mark. Audiophile cables. Well, here we go. I'm sure I'm going to bust a few guts here, and maybe Alex is going to tune me out. But what the hell is it with people when they're selling multi-cables for your speakers, for your AV system in your home, telling you that if you pay $300 for this one cable to go to your speaker, it's got oxygen-free copper, that's got ions that have been pre-aligned to go in a certain direction. Hey, here's the deal, and this is my beef. If you have a zip cord, that's crap. So anything over a zip cord, if you have jumper cables for your car, that's really not a good implementation. A decent, heavy-duty speaker cable is good, but don't go out and spend $300 or $400 or maybe even $1,000 on these crazy-ass audiophile cables. Here's a nice little thing here where the cop is looking at some cables and saying, it looks like a weapon.
Okay, I can't.
It's limited edition,
I gotta say something. We can't
cable, interconnect with carbon fiber shielding, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead, Alex, your rebuttal.
We can't get into the religion aspect of this too much.
Yeah, we can.
First of all, I'm running out of time. I can't stay on the show for too much longer.
Oh, okay.
But I will just say, as a lot of people that say stuff like this, and I used to be one of those guys, until you actually have an opportunity to demo and A/B certain cables, you absolutely will hear a difference. Now, I would never advise someone I would never tell someone, oh, you have to go and spend hundreds or thousands of dollars. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. But I can tell you there are differences that you will be able to hear as long as everything in your signal chain is of good quality, and it starts with your speakers. If you have really good revealing speakers and your electronics are good, I am telling you, if you try different speaker cables, even power cords make a difference. I have high-end, double shielded power cords. I can absolutely hear a difference, and it matters. I don't care that 3 feet from the wall to the amp, it absolutely matters. And in fact,
do you have standoffs on them to keep them off the floor?
No,
do they have the standoffs?
Most power cables are unshielded. The good ones that are shielded and that are designed properly with heavy gauge, 12 gauge, solid core copper wire that are shielded. And the key, you can actually do this. I would challenge anybody. You can build your own power cable, and if you build it this way, you will hear a difference. You can go to Home Depot, buy cheap solid core Romex 12 gauge copper wire, okay? Wrap it in copper foil and tie the ground only on one end, the male end going to ground and in the wall. Tie the shield to ground on only that end, and I'm telling you, you will hear a difference in your.
What about the rest of the building?
Doesn't matter. The current
3
that's
feet.
coming out of the wall, it matters a lot. And power supplies react quite a bit to the cable that's going in there. So I'm telling you,
let it not be said that I didn't.
I'm not going to get into a big argument about this.
There's somebody's calling. It's important. It must be David Hasselhoff to put his 2 cents in. I give Alex his due. Some people can hear things better than others. I wish him the best of luck, but it's a beef of mine that they're selling these super stupendous, expensive. And they're the same people who used to tell me to paint my CDs green on the edge of my CD because you could actually hear the difference in sound. Bullshit. So that's my beef of the week. I respect Alex's opinion. He is more of a tech guy than I am. So that'll wrap up my beef of the week. Alex, before we go, do you have a movie or something you're watching that you want to share with us on your new setup? I'm sure you'll be watching it very carefully.
I think that you need to finish your discussion on painting the edges of your DVDs momentarily.
But people did that. It's
Why did they
it's
do
quite
that?
the thing. Alex, I don't know if you heard me say it. I'm coming back to you to tell us about the latest collection movie that you were getting ready to try out on your new LG 65-inch OLED.
Well, if we're talking about, are we talking my media picks or?
Yeah, your media pick next up
Okay.
on the rundown.
Okay. Oh, I just have one movie. This is not one I'm going to be testing because it's not 4K. I've already watched it, but this movie, directed by Ron Howard, this is The Paper, that came out in 1994, directed by Ron Howard, written by two brothers, David Koepp and Stephen Koepp. Interesting thing about this movie, first of all, it's a great cast. I mean, Michael Keaton, you've got Randy, who else is in here? Robert Duvall. You've got Glenn Close. You've got Randy Quaid. So it's a great cast, and this is a fantastic movie. And I feel like as someone who's never worked in here, I'll just show the back there. This is from this is from Mill Creek Entertainment. This is the 1080p Blu-ray. Just let's see if we can get that to go into focus. Of course, it's not going to go into focus. There it is. These two guys that wrote it, David Koepp's a screenwriter, pretty experienced, but his brother was not a screenwriter. His brother was a journalist, and I felt that he was able to really add the realism and gravitas of what it was like to be in a newsroom and at that time period. So I thought it was a great movie, great story, great dialogue, and if you haven't seen The Paper, you should go and watch it.
It was a good movie. It seems like just yesterday it came out.
Yeah. Right. It's not an old movie, right, Mark?
And we were talking before the show that I was going to talk about gravitas and well-written from actual journalists. The Wire on HBO was an example. And Alex, I highly recommend you take a look at it. It's very, very deep, but very habit-forming. Better than Oz. It was The Wire. I think it's probably one of the best things that HBO ever did as far as the show goes. Like inside, you felt like you were really privy to the way things really were. So, interesting suggestions. We look forward to many reports on your image quality, your setup there. I don't mean to impugn your integrity one iota about my beef of the week. It's just my beef. It doesn't have to necessarily make sense. But I guess I guess I'm admitting that my ears aren't good enough to hear the difference that you can. So there's a backhanded compliment for you, pal. So
Real quick, Jerry Hoyle has his own pick of the week, the Copenhagen Test Series. And he says The Wire was great.
Definitely. Just check that out. You'll like it. I don't know if it's in 4K, but it's certainly in wide format, so you should be able to enjoy that. So, Alex, how do people reach out and tell us what they want us to do for the 100th anniversary of our show, or anything else, including picks of the week or beefs or anything else for that matter?
Absolutely. The best way to do that is by getting in touch in our Discord community. You're going to see a QR code that's floating over my left shoulder right there. So if you just pull out your cell phone, open the camera app, scan that QR code. I'm going to leave it on the screen for a minute there. That will let you into our Discord server. We've got all sorts of different channels in there broken up into different topics, so we can talk about the show. So if you have ideas, right now is a good time to give us your ideas for episode 100. We're a few, 3 episodes away from episode 100. So please post in Discord, reach out to us however you can. Let us know some of the things that you want to see. Maybe there's a returning guest that you think we should have or a specific theme. Please do let us know. And of course, also you can like the show and subscribe on YouTube. So if you like the show on YouTube, we would appreciate if you share it with a friend. And of course, if you don't want to watch the video version of the show, we're available as an audio podcast on all of platforms. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify. You can ask your Amazon Alexa device to play the show, and we will play that pretty much any smart device. We are available pretty much everywhere. Of course, you can also contribute another way by donating. Go to patreon.com/thelastangry.dj. That's patreon.com/thelastangry.dj. Become a monthly coffee supporter at $2 a month. That helps us out. And of course, last but not least, we'd like to thank the folks at Boinks Software and Memo Live. That is the production tool we're using to produce this show every single week, which, by the way, if you're just tuning now, thanks, but you kind of missed the show. We broadcast every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific. That's 5 Eastern time. We couldn't do the show without Boinks Software and Memo Live. So if you are looking to get into podcasting, YouTubing, and you want to work with video and audio, you should really check out Memo Live. It is an absolute game changer. Back to you, Mitch.
All right. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. And Mark, what did you learn other than don't buy your TV from Costco, like a Vizio for $65, or use Zipcord to hook your speakers up? What else did you learn?
Could you just hang on a second? Because I'm in my shopping cart on Amazon, and I've just ordered 5 1,000-foot rolls of 12-gauge Romex, because I'm going to be talking to Alex about how to build my own power cords.
Don't forget the foil.
That will help with the grounding noise we get at the radio station.
Absolutely. And then you have the RF to deal with there, too. So you might as well have a giant Faraday cage and stuff. And, oh, by the way, Alex will probably agree with this. Never, ever, ever, ever mount your TV, your flat panel TV, over your fireplace. It's first of all, it looks stupid. Your neck will never properly connect with the screen, and the soot and other things that might come from your TV, from your fireplace, is going to mess it up. So, a couple of rookie don't do stuff. So, there we go. Get closer to that 100th episode. Thanks for your watching. Thanks for your comments. We'll see you next week.
Die.